Hello horror hounds, welcome to my horror house. Last night I went to see The First Omen, and in celebration I'm wearing my Damien Omen 2 t-shirt because I'm an OG Omen fan. This film has been getting near universal praise across the board, and that is praise that I will be adding to with a couple of very big caveats. It's really strange to see this film just 2 weeks after Immaculate because they share so much in content, theme and subtext, but I guess it's true what they say, sometimes films are like buses. You wait ages for a film to come along that borrows heavily from Italian giallo cinema from the 70s about an American novitiate who travels to Italy to take her vows and becomes embroiled in a mysterious cabal which plans to force pregnancy upon its subject in order to bring about a supernatural birth, and then two come along at once. If you've seen my recent video covering Immaculate, you know I was blown away by that, and to be honest, for the most part, I was blown away by The First Omen as well. I was sat in the cinema thinking, this is amazing. I'm going to have to rave about this film as well. If you'd have asked me beforehand, is there space for a couple of films that are so thematically similar and similar in content, I'd have said maybe not. Maybe this is another situation where, you know, there are two competing Robin Hood movies or two competing volcano movies or two asteroid movies, but there is room for both of these. They are both their own thing and they're both made supremely well. Let's talk about the excellence of The First Omen, and I can hardly believe I'm saying this. I was fully expecting with this to be IP franchise fare from top to bottom, a little bit schlocky. As long as it was all right, I'd have been happy, because the Omen franchise, the original trilogy, means an awful lot to me. You can find me talking about it on other videos here on YouTube from a long time ago. But the film starts off with sort of a cold opening that shows you that while yes, this is still an Omen film, it's an Omen film being made now, and for the most part not slavishly at the servitude of Richard Donner's fantastic, creepy schlock fest from 1976 that I adore. There's an allusion to the Rube Goldberg type deaths that mark out those films, but done in a slightly different way. And then we follow Margaret, our novitiate, our fish out of water, our Susie Banyan, if you will, now landed in Italy to take her vows, staying with nuns at an orphanage this time, I believe, and weird things are happening there. And like Immaculate, this huge section of the film just feels like a love letter to giallo cinema from the 70s. And anyone who's a regular to this channel, firstly, thank you for your patience, but also you will know that is the absolute bullseye of my dartboard. I adore that period in cinema, and as Immaculate did, remarkably, The First Omen manages to allude to that period in cinema without ripping it off. It is its own thing. For the longest stretches of this film, bizarrely, it reminded me more of Suspiria than an Omen movie. It had that kind of feel to it. Which Suspiria, you say, Andrew? Yes, I answer. Both of them, weirdly. Mostly Dario Argento's Suspiria, but in parts it reminded me of both Suspirias. But equally, it is its own thing. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It ramps up the tension and the creeps. There are a couple of sort of jumpish scares towards the beginning, but for the most part, it's all about atmosphere. There's one particular scene where something comes out of the darkness, and I was just thinking to myself, don't devolve into a jump scare. Don't devolve into it. It could so easily have started creeping out of the darkness and then, but it just kept coming and coming and slowly. And that is absolutely the way to do it. And that, for the most part, is how this film does it. Akasha Stevenson, it's her first directorial feature. She has such a steady hand on the tiller. Give this woman more films to direct. Immediately, just a feel, an assuredness. Everything looks gorgeous. The camera movements. Once again, as with Immaculate, the main lesson taken from Giallo cinema is to find a gorgeous looking location and film it, film it, film it. There is money there. You've got faded frescoes doing so much of the heavy lifting, talking about faded grandeur and the riches of the past, now sat faded there amongst cracked plaster, which is sort of at the very heart of this, a section of the church desperately wanting to push back against the tide of secularism. Now, the way they think that they should do that is utterly mad and makes absolutely no sense. But for the longest stretch of the film, it doesn't matter, because you kind of don't go into that. Once you do get into that, once the end of Act 2 revelation comes, which will not be a revelation to anyone, that's when things start to go a little bit off the rails. And what was a masterful exercise in tension, dread, absolute atmosphere, with, it's got to be said, an absolutely superb central performance by Nell Tiger Free, who holds your attention absolutely and has to go from sort of meek, self-contained novitiate into psychosis, or seeming psychosis. Am I going mad? Am I not going mad? The sound design in this is amazing. You should see it at the cinema, I would suggest, if only to get it on a really decent sound system. There's lots of whispers and things coming at you from all around, and the movie plays around a lot with it being diegetic and non-diegetic. And are these voices in her head? And then you realise, oh no, it's just the chattering of the class that she's taking. So she's not going mad. She's not hearing them. But then she's put in a situation where, in actual reality, she is still surrounded by these chattering whispers. So she's in a situation that feels uneasy and tense. So there's no escape door either way, really, and that's really creepy and claustrophobic and extremely effective. Where the film, for me, falls flat is perhaps in the final 20 minutes, the final act, when, after all of this wonderful work by Stevenson, this wonderful world building, a character creation from Free, that I would be happy watching this character just go through her life, get ready to take her vows. That's the real seal of approval from me there. You could strip out all the Omen elements and this would still be a fascinating story to watch, because, as is true in Immaculate, if you just film Roman Catholic institutions, the accoutrements of the Roman Catholic Church and Roman Catholic sacraments, that is hella cinematic enough. The problems for me are twofold, and they arise in the final act, when it finally has to link itself in to the beginning of Richard Donner's 1976 The Omen, and it ties itself in so tightly that it stops becoming this delicate, creepy, atmospheric, psychological story, and it just becomes something completely different. It absolutely becomes a Hollywood franchise movie with sequel bait fare tacked on at the end that kind of doesn't make sense. And all that goodwill was almost completely lost for me. The ending doesn't make sense for two reasons. I mean, sort of artistically for me, not that there are massive plot holes. It doesn't make sense in as much as it just pivots into a completely different movie, and it is a movie that is beneath the movie that everyone up until this point had been making. But it is also a movie that wants to adhere to Richard Donner's The Omen so slavishly that glaring discrepancies between the one and the two start to pop out. I was quite happy watching this film thinking, oh well, Father Brennan's not quite the same as he is in The Omen. And there's a lot of Father Brennan in this, which I do appreciate. He is played by Ralph Ineson, who does exactly what I think is needed to do. He doesn't do a Patrick Troughton impression. He just plays the character. And I would quite happily watch this and then the 1976 original and go, oh, okay, Ralph Ineson's playing Father Brennan in this and Patrick Troughton's playing it in that movie. Fine, they're both the same character. But their motivations are different, and that was worrying me. And let's talk about the jackal. There is a jackal in this, and it is different from how it is explained in the original movie. And if you're going to really try and get in lockstep the end of your prequel to the beginning of the original movie, I don't understand why you would have such glaring discrepancies. I understand that the changes to the jackal make absolute perfect sense for this movie and the story it is trying to tell. I thought that they would take those discrepancies and then do a real big swing for the fences and not try and lock into the original movie. And I thought that they were going to go for a similar ending to Immaculate and almost say, fuck your franchise. This is a completely different story. This doesn't lock into the 1976 movie. But because it doesn't go that way and does go the Hollywood IP franchise route, I sniff studio notes. I'll be honest with you. I think that 20th Century suddenly realised what a good movie they had on their hands and realised that, oh wow, we could potentially get more movies out of this. Exactly the same feeling I got with Prometheus, Ridley Scott's Prometheus, which was clearly intended to tie directly into Alien. And then Fox, it's Fox again, isn't it? 20th Century said, no, we can get some more movies out of this. Fudge the ending. It's a different ship. It's not, even though it's clearly the same fucking ship. It's a different ship. Let's have some more movies in this universe. I wouldn't be at all surprised to find out later on down the line that that's exactly what happened, and there was an original different ending planned. Much more of a piece with the excellent movie that I'd been watching for the last 70 odd minutes up until that point. So it did sour the experience. If you want to, they can make sequels, but they would sort of be doodling in the margins of the original trilogy unless they weirdly decide in this sort of legacy sequel fashion to ignore everything but Richard Donner's movie, in which case they would be weirdly remaking a sidequel to Damien Omen 2 that might ignore Damien Omen 2 or might not. And if they keep the trilogy, the original trilogy, alive and canon, then whatever happens in the margins, well, so what? Who cares? It's such a shame. I was going to come out and just rave top to bottom about this film. There is enough in here, more than enough, to get your teeth into. I do recommend going and getting it. I think it is a worthy addition to the Omen franchise, which, let's be honest, has been limping for a while. I think there was an attempt at a Damien TV series that I don't think quite hit the mark, which again ignored all of the sequels. Omen 4: The Awakening, the TV movie, I'm not a big fan of, but the original trilogy I think is astonishingly solid, if patchy. And yeah, we get another movie that's astonishingly solid, but at the end becomes a little bit patchy because it's neither beast nor fowl. It doesn't work in the end as its own thing because it's too much in lockstep with the original movie, but it's so in lockstep with the original movie that the things it does that are its own now contradict the original movie, which I find intensely frustrating. And maybe I should just let it all go and enjoy the movie as it is. Wow. I mean, it's great, until it becomes, in my opinion, really, really, really bad.
I bid you welcome.
I welcome you to my house.
Welcome to my house.
Welcome to my home.